Hi, I'm Jennie Thomson, and I am doing my capstone as a series of seminars. So, 5 seminars, one a month for 5 months, an introduction to wild medicine foraging. I like to offer them in the Muskoka area. So, the first month in April will be a general welcome, and then we'll go over some sustainability, some harvesting techniques, and things like that. So, I'll dive in. So, welcome. So plants have so much to offer us: food, medicine, clothing, and shelter. Unfortunately, we have separated ourselves from the teaching of the plants and allowed for a more modern way of life to take its place. These teachings are important, not just for traditions, but to ensure the health of our lands. The more we know about the land around us, the more opportunity we have to find ways to preserve it. Knowledge is a powerful thing. In our series, we'll be covering ethical harvesting, the benefits of eating wild, and proper identification, all while diving into a few local plants specifically and creating some medicine of our own along the way. By the end, we will all have our own first aid kit and a downloadable ebook to take with us on our travels. With colonization and an ever-growing human population, we have seen many new and sometimes invasive plants come to the area. What we're learning about might not be specifically indigenous to the area, but we'll focus on plants that are thriving here and are in healthy numbers to harvest and use, so not endangered. Using no more than 5% of what we find, so one plant in every 20 or one berry in every 20. Remember, we are sharing with local wildlife and other foragers. We want the plants to not only survive, but to thrive. With never taking more than we need, we must also ensure we use everything that we take. Being absolutely confident in what we are taking and having a plan for how we're going to use it are two great rules to live by. Making sure we aren't harvesting from areas that are not overpopulated with people and or protected areas. We don't want to trespass or take anything that belongs to someone personally, and knowing which part of the plant we are looking to harvest to make sure we aren't killing the plant if we don't need to. Excuse me, even when we harvest roots, we can ensure we leave a little behind for regeneration. So misidentification is a part of foraging. It can be done safely, but on occasion we may find ourselves in a situation where we've consumed something we shouldn't. We always want to be prepared for that and anything that comes our way. So having a milk thistle tincture in our packs can do just that. Milk thistle supports liver health and neutralizes toxins, to name a few. Here we're going to use it as a defense against misidentification. First defense is always properly identifying anything we're choosing to forage. If you don't know, do not take it. The seeds of the milk thistle plant will be prepared as a tincture to keep in your first aid kit. It works by preventing toxins from reaching and damaging liver cells while we wait for medical attention. Reminder that there are some local emergency contacts in the back of the downloadable ebook. So administering 5 ml of the tincture every 8 hours while traveling to the nearest hospital. So we're going to start our milk thistle tinctures today. It's going to be weight to volume ratio, soaking the seeds in alcohol for a minimum of 14 days, but we're going to end up doing it for a few months because we will press them at the end of the seminars, which is fine. They will be soaked in vodka, so we will need to shake them daily for the first 3 weeks. So the ratio is 1 to 3 in 40% alcohol. We'll do 1 ounce of seeds in an 8-ounce mason jar and cover it with 3 ounces of vodka. We will label the jar with the name of the plant, parts used, the ratio and alcohol percentage, and the date. So before we go out, though, there are some really great references to have on hand that I advise brushing up on before you go out. The Forager's Harvest by Samuel Thayer, Edible and Medicinal Plants of Canada, published by Lone Pine, and Mushrooms of Ontario and Eastern Canada, published by Lone Pine as well. We won't be talking about mushrooms in this seminar, but for those of you interested, that book, they're incredible books. So some phone apps. All Trails is awesome. It has all the trails, well, not all the trails, but it has a lot of the trails around here that are public, and a map and reviews and things like that, they're really great for different times of the season. Seek and Picture This are identification apps. Never ever use them if you are not sure. Don't rely on those apps. It's still a computer. It's still not as good as you checking the plant out yourself, using your referencing books, or talking to somebody who knows what they're doing. In May, we'll be out in the field. So we'll be identifying and harvesting dandelion roots. One of my absolute favorite quotes of all time from Plants Have So Much to Give Us, All We Have to Do is Ask. Perhaps the dandelion is despised because it is free. which I feel really hits home for me. So we'll talk about the botanical name of Taraxacum officinale. So Taraxacos meaning, it's Greek meaning disorder, and acos meaning remedy. Officinale means it was once on the list for a physician writing prescription. So officinal remedy of disorders. So some common names: lion's tooth, blowball, and little suns, which is my absolute favorite. We'll talk about the parts being used. All parts are edible. Young leaves are used in salads, fresh or cooked. The more mature the leaf, the more bitter the flavor. So we will do a little bit of a flavor comparison if it's available. The roots can be eaten as a cooked vegetable, similar to parsnips, or my favorite way is roasted and made into a coffee. So the flowers are also beautiful additions to salads, baked goods, or garnishes. Personally, I use the flowers as an addition to a lemonade made with wild violet blossoms as well. We'll talk about the vitamins and minerals that the leaves contain and the roots as well. Plant uses. So we'll go over like a mild laxative promotes urination to remove water retention. It can also promote the production of gastric juices and bile, so helping with digestion and elimination. So any concerns with the liver, UTI infections, and digestive problems can all be addressed with the beautiful dandelion. We'll go into spring harvesting, discussing roots and the first signs of spring, harvesting dandelion roots, and the benefits of harvesting roots in the spring or the fall when the energy from the plant is more focused on the roots. Spring is a lovely time for detox, so we can, talk about detoxing your home and decluttering your life and all that kind of stuff. Dandelion roots can help us with promoting elimination and digestion. So we'll talk about after winter, kind of getting everything rocking again. We'll discuss SEACT as Reen Case is from Bracebridge. So I can bring out some SEACT to sample out in the field, and then we'll go over the history of SEAC itself, so even separate from Reen. And then we will talk about the 4 ingredients in SEAC and the benefits of them. We'll go over dandelion root tea. We'll do a step-by-step guide. Like I said, I'll teach everyone how to harvest properly, leaving a little bit of the roots because dandelions can regenerate that way. And we do want that to happen. Yeah, and we'll talk about how to roast them and make a beautiful coffee. And then in June, we will be back in the class. So we will be talking about wild food. I'll bring in some wild foods to try, dandelion blossom fritters with a gluten-free option, and I will bring in that lemonade to try. So foraging is one of the oldest occupations of all time. We're built to be foragers and to have that connection with the land. Ancestrally, we were all hunters and gatherers, depending on knowledge and experience to be passed down for survival. The modern world has separated us from this knowledge, and I believe it's time that we bring it back. So we can talk about if anyone has their own garden, their experience with it, how they felt about the food, if they noticed the difference between things that they grew, things they got at the grocery store. Try not to ask leading questions as I'm a little bit biased, but if you can think about how far that food in the grocery store has to travel before it gets to your own home, it's no longer fresh produce. So not only has it traveled for the most part, it was grown in a different part of the world, meaning it's taken up nutrients and experienced different conditions than you have. So our bodies have become accustomed to the areas we live. We adapt to the seasons changing, the lack of rain, and even those bugs, so much like the plants that grow here do. And I think that is hugely important for our own health. So we can also find connection to the world around us through wild foods. We can appreciate how the seasons change when the spring brings new beginnings and the promise of more to come. So we are fed by sunshine, rain, and soil. So why do we forage? So the nutrition in the plants, wild plants have been shown on average to have twice the nutritional content of domesticated crops. The taste, I think they're way more fresh because they haven't lost their nutrients through deterioration or cultivated environmental stresses. There's no pesticides, hopefully. And the cost. So I don't need to go into detail about grocery store expenses right now. So I do want to talk about some edible invasive species in Muskoka, garlic mustard and Japanese knotweed. So offering a garlic mustard hummus recipe and a Japanese knotweed fruit leather recipe. So in July, we'll be back in the field harvesting plantain and infusing oil and discussing yarrow and how to make a field styptic with the yarrow. So I'll do the description of plantain, talk about it as a wound healer for coughs, niacin salves, which we'll be making, and I'll talk about using it in the field as a poultice to help with burns, cuts, stings, bug bites, all that stuff that we get in Muskoka every time we walk out the door. So I'll talk about how beautiful plantain is and how it can be used for instant relief, which is lovely and something we're all interested in these days. We will talk about yarrow, how to properly identify as well. Like I said, using leaves as a styptic, and then talking about how my family has used yarrow as a wound wash for so long. And we love it personally, and I would love for the participants to be able to bring some home and try that themselves at home. In August, we will have our final meeting. So we'll be doing our medicine making. In class, we'll make our plantain salves, straighten our tincture, and wrap up our 5 weeks and go over our field guide, our take-home ebook. So for the salve making, we'll be straining and pressing the plant material to remove as much of the oil as possible. So we're hoping to get about 1 cup, but the beauty, I think, of plant medicine and salves is we just kind of roll with it. So probably around 1 ounce of beeswax. We're going to check the consistency along the way. So I'll teach them how to use a spoon, and some people might like their salves to be a little bit more like an ointment, and some people might want theirs to be a little bit harder. So we'll discuss that. And like I said, we will be pressing our tincture, and I will provide tincture bottles with the measurements and proper labels. So the name of the plant, parts used, ratio, the date that we did the tincture, and then our dosage. And then I will be explaining the ebook. As we're finishing up our medicine making, we'll go over what we learned out in the fields. We can discuss any questions the participants have about medicine making or local foraging. I would like to provide a space, for suggestions and feedback after the 5 weeks for my own learning and progression. I'm quite a sensitive person, and I feel like that would be very helpful for me. Final thought, we must remember that the opportunity to use wild medicine in food is a privilege, not a right. We need to be mindful of many things while we're out: sustainability, gratitude, and respect. Be sure to check the regulations of the area you're gathering from and know which part of the plant you need and how you're going to use it. So just going over the foraging guide quick here before I run out of time. So the contents are sustainable harvesting, proper identification. We have a yarrow and plantain monograph. We have poisonous plants of Muskoka. So I've just listed 4 and photos along with them. Emergency contacts. And then we go into seasonal harvest. So I have in the spring the recipe for the dandelion root coffee. In the summer, a recipe for St. John's wort nerve pain salve. In autumn, elderberry syrup recipe, which is, one of everybody's favorites. And then for the winter time, I have a beautiful white pine tea recipe. So as we go through, I will be, going into a little bit more depth while we're out in the field. I only have so much time in this video, but hopefully, being able to demonstrate properly how to sanitize our tools, making sure that we're not mixing plants as we're going out. We're going to focus more on, we'll have the plantain contained in our oil, and we'll have our yarrow separate. So, before we go out, making sure we have proper containers to put things in, and making sure, like I said, we're not mixing. I'm trying to keep the plants as clean as we can while we're out. So harvesting roots can be really challenging, but washing the roots while we're out in the field, for example. So number one, we don't bring in a whole bunch of dirt into our homes, but that we leave all of that with us, or leave all of that with Mother Nature instead of taking it into our homes and putting it into the garbage. So little tips and tricks as we go along. Hopefully it's well received. I do plan on offering these next season in Muskoka, and I'm hoping for positive feedback. Obviously, keeping this at a beginner's level, and then hoping to offer more advanced as the time goes on. But I really wanted to focus on people getting a little bit more comfortable going out, having some tools with them, knowing that if anything does happen while they're out there, they kind of know what they can use while they're there, and comfortable in identifying and making sure that they know the good trails around and all that. So I'm hoping to achieve that in these seminars. Right, And that's it for me. Thank you so much.